Hi everyone. Hi. Hi.
Hello.
Hello, Darren. Just waiting to see
We
you.
made it.
We made it. I know, I know. This is the first IG live. I'm just waiting for your video. I can't quite see your video at the moment.
Okay, let me see if I've got an option to turn my camera on. Bear with me a second.
Okay, no problem. We don't mind
Oh,
bloopers.
I think it's on the way. I think the video's on the way.
Ah, hi
Oh no, it's blurred.
Ian. Great to see you. Ian Eagleton there. Wonderful. Love Ian's books as well. Fantastic. How lovely.
Are you seeing me yet?
Just
The video?
all I'm seeing actually is a black thing with your face sort of in the middle. That's what I'm kind of seeing at the moment. There shouldn't be any restrictions from my end. You're working, Ian, are you? Haha. Just think of us like the friendly radio station in the background. Mm.
Uh, I'm pressing the camera button on and off,
Yeah.
but nothing seems to be changing at your end. Uh,
Yeah, I don't think there's anything I can do my end with regards to that because I just invite you. Just checking my little notes though, just in case there was anything else I should be doing. Don't think so though. Yeah, it's weird. It's like your video's off or something. It's a bit odd.
yeah, I'm toggling the camera picture on and off, and either way, it seems to be not doing anything.
Can you
I'm going to do an experiment. Sorry?
can you see me though? You can see my video.
I can see you. Yes, I can see
Oh,
you.
hi folks.
I'm going to I'm just going to experiment with the mic to see, just make sure I'm doing this right. Bear with me.
Yeah, yeah, no problem at all. No worries. No worries. Got my coffee, so everybody, we're going to be talking about Furthermore today. Hopefully you've got your copies and you've been reading them already. I'm a big fan of this book, as you may have realised from my Instagram going crazy, Twitter going crazy. Just waiting for author. There he is. There you are.
Do you know what I did? Do you know what I did?
No,
I was using the
you
front
had your
camera on
hand
my phone.
over it the whole time.
I was using the front camera on my phone rather than the one that faces me. So you were all
Oh,
seeing the inside of
never
my phone
mind.
case. You got an exclusive look at
Well,
the
that
inside of my phone case. Lucky you.
well, at least you didn't have any secret photos in there that you didn't share with the world, so that's pretty good.
That's cool.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Darren, for joining me today. I'm Nicci and I am the Kids Books Curator. I used to work at Moon Lane and I'm very excited to have my own new social media channel, blog, and everything to do kids' books with. And this is my first ever IG Live. And I'm really, 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 really excited that Darren is my first guinea pig because I absolutely loved Furthermore. And you're going to be a bit annoyed with me because I only have the proof, but it's not too dissimilar to the actual real live thing. And it's sold out, isn't it? Is it just sold out its first print run or something
Well, I
amazing
think
like that?
I tried to order some for myself for friends and things recently, and Usborne said that it's not sold out, but it's all been allocated. It was all wanted in places, so I can't get copies just yet. So yeah, I mean,
Oh
if you want to
my
call that
goodness.
sold out, we'll go with that. But I think it's all been
I'm going to
allocated.
call
So
it sold out. I've been raving, saying it's sold out, guys. I'm in my newsletter, I'm sold out. If you haven't got a copy, you need to go and look everywhere, high and low, and kind of get one. So I think what I'll do is I'll just read a little bit from the biography information because we've got some lovely people on with us live, but I would imagine that there will be an awful lot of people who want to watch this back on IGTV catch up. Some people who obviously know who you are, some who will be exploring my recommendations for the first time. So just a bit about you then. So living in Nottingham with your family. I thought this was quite amusing, spending most of your time pretending to know what you're doing, Darren.
aren't we all? Aren't we all?
I think you're quite right there. We're all sort of taking a leap of faith, right? What I love is the quote on your website where you say, I write vivid, unruly fiction for older children and teens and love using otherworldly settings and unconventional characters. I just think that that's absolutely perfect because this is my first foray into reading your books and it's so dark, it's so unruly. I honestly didn't know what I was going to be getting myself into, but really hooked, really amazing. So I've got quite a lot of questions here. I know we only want to keep it to about 20 minutes, so I'm already panicking slightly because this book just...
We can play it by ear, you know, we'll see how it goes. It's
Yeah,
not a
yeah,
super
yeah.
rush.
No, I'm really excited. So, just quickly to say to everyone that the book is out now. It came out on World Book Day on the 3rd of March, and it's in paperback, and you can literally find it everywhere because it's so brilliant. So, some questions. So, have you written many children's books so far, Darren? Or is this one of your earlier ones? I'm not very familiar with
Yeah,
your career.
yeah, that's okay. With my body of work.
Oh,
Yeah, so
yes.
let's see. No, I mean, I'm quite new to this game. I only got published in 2019. So my first book was Scavengers, my first
Oh,
children's book.
wow.
And then after that, in 2021, there was The Memory Thieves. And then this is my third book for children, Furthermore. And I've got like an adult book that came out a while before Scavengers, but very strictly for adults. I always started off writing for adults. Scavengers was written for adults
Really?
originally. I sort of got into children's writing by accident in a way. So, but it's a very happy accident. I'm very happy to be here doing it.
Oh, that's amazing. And you've been quite modest because actually Scavengers was the Guardian Best Book of the Year. And
It was that, yeah.
And Memory Thieves was nominated for the Carnegie Medal and was a World Book Day summer read. So everything you've done so far is like Midas touching to gold. So it's all going really well, right?
It can't last, can it? But yeah, it's going all right. Like I said, it's a flag, but it's doing okay.
Come on, come on. So I would just love to dive into the book. And I know it's really hard, isn't it? Because I remember you saying about my review that there's spoilers, but I think it's so difficult because there's so much going on in the book, and it really is. I mean, because it's set over the Monday to the Monday, it's literally just full on. It's like going into a disaster movie. You're like, you can't breathe. It's just absolutely incredible. So what inspired you to write such a story? I mean, it's so deep and dark, and it's amazing to think it's about children so young as 12, for example.
Yeah, well, I mean, the book. Yeah, I mean, Bren in the story is 12, and I mean, it is deep and dark, but that's because it's largely about bullying and grief. And
Yes.
as deep and dark as it is, we must have too deep and dark for children, but it does happen to children. It's a thing that children go through. So,
Right.
And also when you're writing about bullying, you can't really sort of you can't really hold back on the ugly reality of it, I think. So it was always going to be, when I decided to explore bullying, it was always going to become a bit of a dark book, well, a hopeful book ultimately.
Yes,
I hope
definitely is.
But yeah, in terms of inspiration for it, it was a bit of a blag, really, a bit of a panic when it all started, because I'd written Scavengers, and then Memory Thieves had come out, and then I had a third book contracted that I hadn't really decided what to write. It was basically, I got a contract for two books after Scavengers, so Memory Thieves I had that already in the bag pretty much, but I didn't know what to write next, and so I was just looking around for things to do, anything that might stick, you know, and go with. And I think with Furthermore, I started off with the setting, basically. I had an idea. I love the idea of this kind of crystallized setting, this kind of crystal forest, something quite otherworldly. Maybe inspired. I'm a big fan of J.G. Ballard, and he wrote a book quite a long time ago called The Crystal World, which is about a forest in a jungle in South America that starts to crystallize. More of a science fiction thing, but I always like that imagery. It's so vivid and bright and sharp. But I didn't know how to use it because that would be something from a fantasy book, you know, a magical clockwork forest with crystal flowers, and it sounds quite like fantastical. I don't really write fantasy books, not because I don't like them. I like lots of fantasy books. I love fantasy films and stuff, but I don't really feel like a fantasy writer. So I was just stuck with how can I use this setting, and then it occurred to me after agonizing for quite a while about it, what about if rather than setting it in a fantasy world, I put my story in the real world, but put that forest in the protagonist's imagination.
Amazing.
And that was kind of how I got at the problem. I could use this setting in a book in the real world. And it just went from there, really. I started researching imaginary worlds and daydreaming, and I discovered people who are addicted to daydreams, addicted to elaborate fantasy worlds.
Wow.
They're called maladaptive, and it ruins their real lives. It affects their relationships and their careers and their health, because they're so absorbed and addicted to fantasy worlds that they create in their minds. And they know it's fake. They don't think it's reality. They're completely sane, and you know, they know they're lucid, and they know that these worlds are imaginary, but they're addicted to them nonetheless. And it all went from there. You know, these people are obviously addicted to these worlds because reality can be hard sometimes.
Yes.
And it's based on a schoolboy. Obviously, what's hard for schoolboys, often bullying, grief. So I kind of took those themes and just kind of tied it all together and tried to merge the fantastical world and the real world. But what really inspired me and prompted me to keep writing was I love I love kind of corrupting reality and subverting it. So the idea of having this imaginary world somehow encroach upon reality, a more gritty urban estate, was really appealing to me in terms of imagery and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. And I think as you're reading the book, I think because it does jump between the two worlds fluidly throughout the story, I think it's you know, in some books that I've read that do that, there can be a danger of becoming a bit confused as the reader.
Yeah.
And you think, if I'm an adult, and you know, what's the child going through? But in this sense, you've got the watch. So you have something that is the symbol of the transition between the two worlds. And without it, I mean, obviously there's a bit of not confusion, but you know, something goes on a bit later on that it's great. It's a great thing, and it really stumps the reader, which is really perfect. But you do have the concept of the watch. It's not, but it's not time travel. It's reality to imagination travel. I mean, how did you? What was it about the watch? Because obviously you're going into the whole thing around the cogs and it, because you know, we haven't said yet that the family, that the boy that this story is centered around, he's 12, but he's very tragically lost his older sister. I mean, how old is Evie to him? Because I know they shared a bedroom at home, so I'm imagining she can't have been much older than him.
Yeah, she was a couple of years older than him, and before she sort of died in the car accident, she did. They were obviously talking about getting a bigger house so that they could have separate rooms. She was getting too old for that. But yeah, the watch thing, I think it wasn't to do. I think it was that clockwork element, because furthermore, as an imaginary space, it's a safe space where Brennan has complete control, and the fact that it's so mechanical and clockwork reflects that. It's not wild like nature; it's all mechanical. And so I think just a watch made sense as some sort of portal, or something that's a trigger portals. Yeah. And actually started off more of an old-fashioned kind of. Evie was into collecting old watches, like you know, sort of handpiece, timepieces, you know. And it was more sort of antique watch. But then we realised that kind of didn't feel very contemporary and realistic for a teenage girl. So we made it. This is me, my editor, I guess. We made Evie someone who was interested in engineering, mechanics, and like the fact that cogs were on the green watch she's got. But yeah, it was just that I like the fact that rather than having a magical portal where you step through and it's just all swirling colours and stuff, I prefer the idea of taking something like a wardrobe or a drum kit and having it reconfigure into a portal of some sort, and that kind of the clockwork element fits in there.
Yeah, and I think because I remember everything so vividly about, you know, because as you're reading, you're almost in it yourself as you know, you're really drawn into your story, and you know, and just the whole sense that, you know, you almost feel like you're Bren's out of body experience, and you're looking down on him as he's gone into that world, and you're just seeing this grief-stricken poor child that is just trying to find his purpose and his way without his true soulmate, his sister. And you can just almost be hovering above him, and you know, whether he's in the music room at school in break time, or he's in his bedroom lying on his bed and thinking he's gone through his wardrobe or something like that. And you know, it's really eerie. It's really eerie to, you know, particularly if you're reading it as an adult or a teacher or whatever, and you know, you care so greatly about your own children, or whether they're the children you care for in school or in a hospital or in a care setting or at home. You know, I think this book is just as exciting and thrilling to read as a child as it is for an adult, because you can see it from so many different angles. I think you can even read more into the book as an adult, actually, which is really exciting for me.
Yeah, I've seen some reviews where parents have said it's made them think a lot more about their children and what they might be going through at school and stuff, to sort of safeguard again and to talk more. So it's nice to see adults. And also, I also came across a reviewer on NetGalley who said that her husband was grieving and the book really helped him. So that's an amazing privilege to be able to do that sort of thing. But I mean, I always try and write for adults anyway. Obviously, the key market in terms of what shelf it goes on in bookshops and stuff is the kind of officially the middle grade age group. But I always kind of start off with, I guess, what's often a bit of an adult idea, and I do try and write books that will work for all ages. And I think as a result, a lot of people refer to them as YA, and a lot of adults read them. And I just so I try and make books work for all ages. I think hopefully help that makes the book my books less patronizing to young readers, because they can actually take a lot in terms of emotions and big ideas. And so I'd always try and write across to young readers rather than down to them anyway.
Yeah, I think
I
that's
hope it
definitely come across 100%. And I've had a comment from Snap Happy Mam who says it's heart-wrenching to read as a parent. So yes, backing up my view there, absolutely. Now I'm quite aware of the time. We've only got 5 minutes, and I literally had 22 questions, and we.
Don't worry. As long as there's people listening and you're happy, then
yeah,
I'm not in a massive rush. So don't worry about that. I don't want to bore anyone. That's all.
Yeah. Well, okay. So, furthermore, how did you come up with the title Furthermore? Is it to do with and furthermore? You know, like moving forwards through his life, or you know, was there something much deeper about that? Or I was just wondering how you came up with it.
Well, that was just, I think that was just, it didn't start off thematic in any sort of way. It was just a bit of wordplay that I liked. People who've read Scavengers know that I quite like playing around with words and language. And I think furthermore, obviously it means furthermore as in, you know, more.
Yes.
But it sounds like a place. It always sounds like a place, like, you know, kind of the moorlands, kind of furthermore. So it's got a nice ring to it as a place. But then, and thematically, that works out well because furthermore means more. And that's kind of what the land of Furthermore in the book represents. It's something beyond. It's, you know, it's an imaginary world beyond. It's kind of the world that can exist beyond ours. So
yes, it
works as a bit of wordplay. It works thematically. And actually, that's the first time I've ever had a title for the book during kind of writing and editing that has actually stayed. Both 2 times previously, I've had a working title and it's changed. But this is the first time, and I was really surprised when Usborne, my publisher, said like, "No, we're keeping it." I was like, "Really?"
That's really awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the 3rd time lucky.
Oh, 3rd time lucky, even better. So was Bren, like, you know, obviously these events, when you're reading the book, because it just feels so personal, you know, obviously I understand that a lot of writers and authors, they're not necessarily drawing on their own experiences and they go and do a huge amount of research. Was this that kind of book, or was it you're drawing on some personal, and if it is, you don't have to go into too much detail at all, please don't worry, but was it drawing on, because you must have had, I mean, I'm thinking secondary school bullying, I'm thinking, you know, witnessing racism, growing up in a very tough environment, you know, parents are grieving, the family's grieving. I mean, you know, it's so well written. You know, how much of that was drawn from your personal experience, your childhood, and anything like that?
I mean, there were. I mean, I definitely didn't have as hard a time as Brett. I'm very thankful to say. You know, yeah. I mean, at the most, I had some. At school, I had like occasional bits of. I was on the receiving end of some light bullying here and there, but nothing ever too sort of ongoing or fierce, you know. So I was quite lucky in that sense. I was a bit of a quiet kind of. I was a bit of a wallflower like Bren at school. I was quite happy to be in the background and stuff. But so yeah, I didn't have to draw too much on that influence. It was more a case of. I mean, I drew actually more from Carrie. Carrie's got a bit of a backstory where Carrie, one of the reasons that he is emboldened is because he sort of has had hard times moving between. I grew up in army school, so I had to change school every couple of years.
Ah, military as well.
That came, well, hello. Yeah. So, and that sort of did lead me to, even though it was easier when I was younger, as I got older, I started to miss the old friends too much, and it affected my ability to make friends in new schools. And I did sort of draw up from that in Carrie, but in terms of being bullying, you know, I still get beat up by white bands. I seem to attract a bit of trouble from certain types because I'm quite approachable and I don't look like the sort of person who ever sort of put up a fight. So I just sort of attract a bit of that thing from people in general. But I've never had a hard time like Bren. So basically, it's more a case of thinking about school, thinking about having seen bullying, and thinking about seeing in workplaces, in colleges, everywhere. It's prevalent. So, and then also I did a lot of research. So I did do a lot of research online of kind of advice for bullies and why people bully. That was a big part of it, thinking about Sean and why he does what he does. So yeah, it was a mixture of drawing on experience and a lot of research, and also just empathy, just putting yourself in someone's shoes and thinking about why these things work. You know, bullying is probably something we all think about. You know, when people do something horrible to people, why do people do that? What's that all about? It's quite a strange thing to think about. So it's just imagining and empathizing, really.
I thought one of the wonderful moments was when Bren was unlocking his front door and Sean came along, and he was about to do his usual bullying, and then there's that scene with Sean's dad, and it's the other side of life for the bully, that we talk to kids, as parents now, we feel a lot more like we've got a lot more in our toolbox these days than our parents maybe did for us. And it's always trying to sort of explain to your children that perhaps there's a reason why that person's acting that way at school. Maybe try and include them, or feel, you know, be nice to them and see what happens, you know. And it's just that whole thing with Sean about, you know, how, you know, he was very down on his luck, you know, mum walking out and food banks, and, you know, and you can just see where all that hurt and vulnerability comes from. But then he's targeting Bren, which just seems so incredibly unfair because of what Bren, I mean, it seems to me like he's always targeted Bren, and perhaps Bren is an easy target, but it's just so raw, isn't it? Because of everything Bren is going through, and, you know, losing his sister is less than a year. So it's just, but the book does have every side. You know, you're looking through a prism at the bullying situation, which is, I think, you know, for teachers using, I think it's an amazing book for teachers to use in school. I think it would be incredibly powerful. But, you know, parents encouraging and maybe reading at the same time reading that book with their children would be, I think, because my daughter, she's nearly 11. She read it because she snatches all my proofs. You know, it's very tricky in my household. She snatches my proofs before I can get on them. Not always, but sometimes. And she actually read it before me. And when I read it, I was like, oh my God, are you all right? You know, like, I can't believe how much was going on in this book. You didn't tell me anything. And, you know, do you want to talk about anything? You know, and actually, you know, she's so well read, you know, and she has very good emotional intelligence. But I just really, it was incredible to think. I felt like I should have read it before her. It was kind of almost that scenario. But as but you can imagine for a sort of a tween, you know, they wouldn't need that. But like, it was, yeah, just amazing, really. So was there anything fun about writing this book for you, Darren, or was it really just quite an intense project? Did you get any laughs? Did you get any laughs?
Well, it was fun in the sense that it's always nice. It's always a privilege and a nice thing to be writing a book knowing that it's, you know, going to get published and stuff. So, you know, I enjoyed the experience, and I wasn't sort of getting too, like, grim and dark myself while writing the book. Obviously, there were some very, very emotional moments. Obviously, putting myself in Bren's shoes so much, and there were lots of, and obviously I've got to try and sort of eke out as much poignancy and impact as I can when I'm writing the book. So it does involve getting quite deep in there with the emotions and stuff. So a lot of it was quite emotional, but I did enjoy writing it in the sense that I just like writing for the sake of writing, and for the sake of being able to blend these two worlds and explore the grey areas in bullying, and yeah, I mean, that was fun. And also there's a lot of sweetness in the book. You know, those moments when Bren goes to Furthermore and hangs out with Evie, those are moments of respite.
Lovely, so vulnerable and caring, and it's just like it's just the most beautiful sibling relationship, isn't it? It's just so lovely. It's really beautiful. And yeah, and the so in my review, I don't know, because obviously poor Kerry, he suffers some racism at the hands of Sean, and sort of coming from a Southeast Asian background, you're kind of guessing as a reader. And was I right or was I wrong about my feeling that perhaps there was some sort of undertones of anti-Semitism towards Bren, he being called Beakface, and also with the sort of the way that the Furthermore character Featherly, the way he is portrayed, you know, as well, it's so dark, and he's also got this beak and hooded character, and, you know, he's taking sort of his pound of flesh from all the mechanical animals that Bran has so lovingly created. And, you know, because of the dynamics between Bran and Featherly, and why Featherly exists, you know, and taking from each other in a way, I mean, was that premeditated, or am I just like saying, hey, I've discovered this in your book?
It must be purely your interpretation, I think, because I'd never intentionally planned to have that kind of anti-Semitic thing. I mean, the fact that, but I see where you're coming from. And for me, like,
it's not completely bonkers that I've picked up on something. No, okay.
And every reader's interpretation counts just as much as what I've put down, is the way I see it. So it was never intentional. But I think when it comes down to sort of Bren being Beakface and having a bit of a pronounced nose like his dad has, and that kind of obviously ties with feathering and the twist and stuff.
Yeah.
Is yeah, he was. I think. I mean, it's just like. Yeah, I like to think that when Sean picks on Brennan that way, it's more to do just with he's picking on a facial feature rather than anything that's sort of anti-Semitic.
Yes.
I don't think even Sean would even be particularly aware, even though he'd sort of pick on someone who looked maybe Chinese. I don't think he'd even be particularly aware of anti-Semitism and stuff. So I think it's purely a bully who's picking on a facial feature. It's not even that pronounced, but that's how it is in school. It takes one little thing in school, you know, especially that age group, where people will pick on it and it'll become a thing, it'll become a nickname that slowly hurts you over time.
Quite.
That sort of. Yeah, that was never intended, but
I just only wondered because obviously picking up on what was going on with Carrie, I just wondered whether that might be sort of a character trait of Sean, that he, coming from the background that he does with the type of father that he has, might have sort of like some ingrained prejudices that has come through his father or something like that. I just wondered if I was picking up, but that's okay. You know, we all like.
It's a very interesting idea. I think that's where you're coming
from. Yeah, and then crows.
Right.
Oh my goodness. I mean, I had a whale of a time going on Google and looking up all around crows, symbolism, you know, the intelligence of a crow, you know, all the emotional attachments of crows and crows. And it's such a great theme to have through the book, and it's just through everything, and it's so cool. I really, really love it. Like, how did that come about?
I became quite obsessed with crows, and I did a lot of research on them while writing the book. And I think for me, I think I chose them as well. Starting off, it's just, this sounds really shallow and basic, but they're just cool, aren't they? They're just crows. Are just really cool.
I have them in my garden. I love them.
Yeah, they just. I mean, they've obviously got all this kind of like they got centuries of mythology and folklore tied up in them, and they're always you refer to them as a murder of crows, and they're so sinister, so I think it's just like quite obvious symbolism for a baddie, I guess, for an antagonist to use the crow thing for. And I just obviously like the imagery. I like the fact this kind of beaked hood and the flapping cape, and the fact that he's quite scruffy and gross as well, rather than being grand or anything like that at first. And he sort of grows in power as the story goes along.
Yeah.
So yeah, I chose crows just for that. But when I researched crows, I learned a lot of things. Some of them were very useful. For example, the incident that happens to Bren that kind of puts crows in his mind as villains is when he picks up a bird by the road and then he gets attacked by crows after that, and he gets regularly attacked by crows and sort of heckled by them, and that's based on crows do actually remember human faces, and they do harass people. I read about this Indian man who helped a baby bird in his garden, and afterwards he was attacked by crows. So he ran into his house, had a cup of tea, calmed down, whatever. When he opened the door a bit later on, there were loads of crows all over the trees waiting.
Oh my God.
He went to other parts of India and got harassed by crows. And also, scientists have found out that crows also attack the younger generations. Know the faces. They pass it on. They're very social, intelligent birds. So even the younger generations will recognize a face of someone who's been a threat to them, a human face. So incredibly intelligent. So I learned loads of really interesting things about crows. They have funerals. They gather around their dead so they can learn about what's happened.
Really?
They're one of the few creatures that make tools in the animal kingdom, like animals and apes and stuff. So yeah, they're amazing. I also learned while doing that there's a certain type of thrush that does little farts to find its food. How about that?
So that's the author visit.
Yeah. Well, honestly, the school visits, I've got a crow quiz. I developed a crow quiz based on all these crow facts and some of the amazing things I learned, and it just amazes and astounds the children and gets a lot of laughs as well. Some of it. Yeah, crows, they're just awesome, and it's the imagery, it's the symbolism. I think when you're an author, it's when you just choose stuff that looks cool to you as well, you know.
Yeah, but also the symbolism of the transition to the spiritual world. You know, that was what
yes.
Yeah, so obviously the book all the way through from beginning right to the end, it's still going between the real world and the spiritual imaginary world, and crows are sort of seen as a symbol of transitioning, aren't they, helping people to transition and things like that. And so when I read that up, I was like, oh God, Darren, you're so clever. That's so brilliant. I mean, it's all come together. It's brilliant.
You can get when you sort of research mythology and stuff, you often find so many more ideas from it. I've found often I have a few bits and pieces that I'm trying to put together, and I do research around it, and then you end up with loads more ideas for your book. It's really handy.
Oh, it's great, brilliant. So where are you going next? So you had your Usborne deal for these 3. Was that right?
Yes, so that's right. So basically, yeah, at present I'm uncontracted. It's the first time I kind of have a book under contract, which is actually quite. It's a bit scary, but it's also
I
nice
was
because
going
there's
to
been so
say,
many
how
people
does that
getting.
feel?
Yeah, it's a bit nerve-wracking, but it's also I think it comes at a good time because I kind of getting 3 books out in 3 years. So that's
Oh,
quite
it's
intense.
amazing. And with COVID as
Um,
well, and for them to have done so well. I mean, you know, that's
yeah,
just hats off.
I think COVID actually probably helped me with the writing in a way because I probably well some writers kind of I think struggled and that's fair enough to focus on anything like that, but I actually
Mm.
found it quite good as a way to escape, which is why that's why people read while they write as well. Sometimes it's escape to focus so intensely on something like that it distracts you from the real world a bit. So
Mm.
COVID probably helped me with the writing, but I think these 3 books it's been quite an intense period, and so I'm looking forward to sort of having no deadlines for a little bit while I kind of
Yes.
ruminate on what's next. And I do have an idea that I'm developing at the moment, and I'm sort of in talks with my agent and editor about where it might go. But I'm very excited about it. I think it might be for very slightly older readers, not particularly that much older, but it
Ah.
might be a little bit kind of still in a sort of in a dark still in dark territory with
Mm.
something a bit more of a look at a society, maybe a small society, and maybe slightly historical,
Oh, that
like
sounds interesting.
eerie and sort of yeah, kind of. I'm thinking sort of pagan there's all sorts going on with it, but it's early days. But there's something I'm working on that hopefully it'll work out and I can stick with Usborne because they've been amazing.
Yeah, they're so good, aren't they? And also that will be really lovely for the readers that your core fans. Because obviously, since the book in 2019, the children are now growing with you. And so if you've got
Yeah,
something slightly older aimed at sort of YA, then that's going to be lovely to retain your fans really. So like they're growing with you as well, which is really that would be so exciting.
yeah.
So
We're
lovely.
still figuring out where it's going to sort of fit in and stuff, but I
Mm.
think it'll be quite on brand. I think, but a bit of a different approach if there's a historical element. But yeah, I think it might not be quite YA as such. It might be sort of like kind of more like sort of teen perhaps, where
Okay,
it's
good.
kind of like
Yeah, because I just was going
grey
to
area
say, don't
between.
do YA because then it means that I probably won't read it because I have so many books to read up until so for primary, and I want to read more of your books. I'm just being
No, thank
really
you.
selfish. But you also, just very quickly, just because I want the people who are watching it now and watching later on to know about, is that you also have a really big passion for literacy, don't you? So you're quite active. I can't remember whereabouts in the country it is. Is it Norwich? No,
Uh, Nottingham.
Nottingham. Sorry, Nottingham people. So yeah, so Nottingham. Yeah. So can you just tell us a little bit about what you're doing for literacy in Nottingham?
Yeah, basically, there's a local sort of hub of the literacy trust called Read on Nottingham, and I just got involved with them. I think in early days, really. Oh yeah, it all started off with they were doing a pilot scheme just to basically what happens is a lot of you probably know this. A lot of children and teens they enjoy reading up to sort of the end of primary school, but often what happens is when they start secondary school, the reading starts to die off a little bit because they find they get mobile phones, they start doing other things, and that's obviously a bit of a problem in terms of maintaining literacy and reading for pleasure. So Scavengers was used for a pilot scheme where they had children start it in lots of Nottingham schools at the end of year 6, and then they went to year 7 at the new school and carried on reading Scavengers, and it was a sort of attempt to keep
Oh,
reading for pleasure going.
yeah.
And ever since that went really well, and ever since that, I've sort of helped them with various little schemes and doing videos for World Book Day and just odds and ends really, kind of for them. But it's been amazing to work with them, and I think I'll be keeping doing that for a little while. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really great because I always wrote for adults originally. Going to schools and meeting so many young people, it's been really inspiring, and it's really kind of given me a kind of purpose beyond just writing books. I really like the idea of these people I meet. I really like the idea of I like it when I meet them and they're excited about my books and they're excited about other books.
I
And
know. Yeah.
I like to meet reluctant readers, and I like to go to maybe just more disadvantaged areas to meet new
Mm.
pupils and just encourage that passion for reading. And it's quite easy to do because I'm so passionate myself.
Mm.
And I don't kind of dryly forcing it on people, but just to sort of talk about books a little bit and to remind young readers that if they don't like reading, it's purely because they sort of have had the wrong books given to them for so long,
Oh
that kind of
yes,
thing. So
I know.
it's really nice to it's become a bit of a kind of thing that runs alongside writing the books, really engaging with young people. So I
Yeah.
always come away from school feeling way more optimistic about the human race, frankly.
Yeah, it has a massive effect, doesn't it? Because I do school book clubs in primary schools, and I just love, it's because you get such a melting pot of children. you know, with all sorts of backgrounds, all sorts of problems going on in their lives. And, you know, and it's, you know, you've got that one safe space where you can just be really excited about books, and you can talk to them about what they're reading, and they know that each week they're coming in and they're, you know, they're just focusing on books, and it's going to be really good fun. And yeah, it's like, you know, you going and talking to the children, and it also just makes everything so much more relevant, and that you're staying in touch with the children of now, you know. That's what I think, that's what's really important. I don't think you can really be in the kids books world unless you're really kind of, in a way, tapped into what's going on in schools, and, you know, having that contact and talking to children about books. And that's why I love being a bookseller, because, you know, having those chats with children about books and advising them, and then having them come back and tell you what they loved, and, you know, it's just such a wonderful feeling, especially if you get the parents and saying, you never read a book, or she never read a book, and now they found this series, we want all of them, and when's the author writing another one? And then you're going and looking up to see when the next book's out. You know, those moments are just so precious. They're just so lovely. Yeah, it's an amazing industry, isn't it? And you're so gifted to be able to write these books as well. I mean, it's just such an amazing talent. Well, and on that note, thank you very, very much, Darren. And everybody, if you're not already following Darren on social media, and he also has a website, which is darrensimpsonwrites.co.uk, please do follow Darren. And all his books are available to buy in all the best local bookshops, independent bookshops, main bookshops, and also online. If you are buying online, please try and buy at bookshop.org, because that celebrates local independent bookshops, and they all earn a little bit of money from each sale. So that's really, really supportive. And what else do I need to say? Yeah, Darren, do you have any last words for our viewers?
Well, I'm worried that I've rushed you a little bit. So are there definitely any couple of the main questions you're interested in?
Oh gosh, I'm just going to look. Well, I mean, I think because we went quite off piste, but in such a wonderful way, that I'm looking down my questions and I'm seeing that we may not have answered them in order, but actually we've pretty much covered everything. I mean, I think I probably would have liked to talk about Featherly a lot more, to be honest. But then, in a way, maybe it might have ruined it for some people who hadn't read the book yet. So it's probably, I think it's probably a good thing that I didn't have time to do that. But no, I just have to say that this has been really, really super lovely, and I really appreciate you giving your time today. It's very kind of you. I know you're mega busy with all the promo, and yeah, so watch out for more from Darren, like I will be. And we'll be having more IG Lives coming up soon, including Hannah Gold for The Lost Whale. So keep an eye on my Instagram. Okay, so everyone have a lovely day. Thank you so much.
And thank you for having me, Nicci. Thank you for everyone who's joined in as well.
Thank you, everybody. Okay. Bye.
See you, bye.